I am Lena Whitmore, a 30-years-old woman. I'm a food stylist in Portland, and 2 years ago my parents passed unexpectedly, leaving me with a trust fund I never asked for. What happened next changed everything, especially when my sister decided it belonged to her. The last time I saw both my parents alive was a Tuesday. They were heading to dinner. I was stuck in a chute, styling a plate of roasted duck so it looked elevated but humble, whatever the hell that meant. I texted Mom a selfie of me holding the plate, captioned, "Duck for the win." She texted back a heart. 2 hours later, they were gone. A wrong-way driver on the I-5, a black sedan that crossed 3 lanes, impact on the driver's side. It was instant, they told me. No pain, no suffering. Just silence. Grief is strange. Everyone expects tears, screaming, casseroles. I just stopped moving. For days. I ate crackers on the couch and kept the TV on without watching it. I brushed my teeth but not my hair. I answered no calls, not even from Brooke. Especially not from Brooke. At the reading of the will, we sat in stiff chairs with untouched coffee and paper cups. The attorney, Dad's old friend, read things slowly, deliberately, like punctuation could soften the blow. They left everything equally except for one detail. The trust, he said, folding his hands. It was set up for Lena years ago. It was meant to be released upon the death of both parents. I blinked. What trust? Brooke didn't say a word. The lawyer continued. It holds approximately $340,000 set aside for Lena's future, protected, intended to. I get it, I interrupted. I didn't need his explanation. I already saw the tension in Brooke's jaw, the way her nails dug into the arm of her chair. It was the same face she wore when I got into the arts program in high school, when I booked my first shoot, when Mom said she was proud of me for something Brooke didn't understand. This wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about her not being chosen. She stormed out before the reading ended. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't call. 6 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment. Rosé in hand. Smiled too wide. Let's not let money break us, she said. I let her in. Because grief does that, makes you believe people are better than they are, makes you crave connection even from ghosts wearing familiar faces. We drank, laughed, remembered Mom's cinnamon rolls and Dad's awful jokes. I thought we were healing. I thought we were it just got but I kept the logging in. 2 months later, I saw it. Invalid. My hands got cold. I didn't know. My email was affected. I told him. There's no one. Then a woman was informed of the account. He submitted these credentials right. No, I said, I haven't touched it. It says here it was verified by a family administrator on July 8. I felt cold. July 8. Brooke had been over the night before. She borrowed my laptop to check something real quick. I didn't think twice. I called her. Voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I waited 3 more days. Still nothing. Then I called the estate lawyer. Told him everything. He sounded concerned but cautious. Do you have proof? I'm working on it. If what you're saying is true, this isn't just a misunderstanding. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor in my pajamas, surrounded by bank statements and emails, my stomach twisted with shame. How could I have been so stupid? But it wasn't stupidity. It was trust. She was my sister. She knew my passwords, my birth date, my mom's maiden name. She didn't hack me. She knew me. And she used that to empty every dollar. I filed the fraud report in the morning. The banker on the line, a new guy named Travis, asked if I wanted to pursue legal action. My voice was calm. Yes, all of it. The investigation would take time, they warned. Could be months, maybe more. But I didn't care. Because I was done waiting for people to do the right thing. I started gathering. Call logs, screenshots, IP addresses, financial records. And 3 days later, I received the PDF. Subject line: transfer confirmation. There it was. Her name: Brooke Whitmore. July 8. Electronic signature: verified. The last of my trust fund was transferred to a private account I didn't recognize. But the initials on it: BW. I stared at the document for hours. Not crying. Not screaming. Just shifting. Something inside me changed. The girl who wanted to fix things died that night. And something colder, clearer, took her place. I closed the laptop. Stood. Walked to the mirror. And said out loud, okay. She wanted to be the thief. Fine. Then I'd be the storm she never saw coming. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't burn all at once. It starts slow. Like smoke behind a wall you didn't know was hollow. And when the flames finally break through, it's already too late. I didn't go after Brooke right away. Not with lawyers, not with rage, not with confrontation. Instead, I waited. Watched. Documented. Because I knew her. She counted on people reacting fast, acting impulsively. But I wasn't that girl anymore. The version of me that let her drink wine in my kitchen while she bled me dry was gone. Now I was quiet, careful. And patient. A week after the investigation was officially opened, I got an unexpected email from Meg. She owns a cafe and boutique food studio downtown, soft lighting, reclaimed wood, the smell of lavender and flower hanging in the air like something sacred. I'd worked with her before, styled dishes for her menu shoots. We weren't close, but we respected each other. Her message was short. Hey Lena, random, but do you know anyone looking for kitchen hours? Quick hands, flexible schedule. My sous chef bilaid and I need backup fast. I stared at the screen. Then I typed back. I can do it. Meg was surprised when I showed up. You sure? Didn't think you needed the hours. I smiled. Things change. She handed me an apron and showed me to the back kitchen. I spent the next 3 days prepping rosemary potatoes, folding napkins into tulip shapes, and styling open-faced tartines with edible flowers. It was simple work. Honest. And it kept me breathing. On the 4th morning, the bell above the front door chimed. I was slicing strawberries in the back when Meg poked her head in. Hey Lena, can you show the new girl where we keep the clean linens? New girl. I wiped my hands, pulled off my gloves, stepped into the front. And froze. Brooke stood there, wearing a black apron, holding a tray of forks, smiling. Hey sis, she said, looks like we're coworkers now. For a moment, I couldn't move. The air in my lungs disappeared. And then something inside me clicked into place. Not panic. Not fury. Precision. I turned to the shelf. Wordless, I pulled down a stack of linen wraps and handed them to her. There, I said. Our fingers brushed. Her smile faltered. Later that day, I found her alone in the walk-in fridge. She was restocking berries, but her hands shook slightly when she saw me. What are you doing here? I asked quietly. Same as you, she muttered, working. I stepped closer. You stole from me. Her jaw clenched. You think you're the only one who lost something. You forged a legal signature, Brooke. That's not loss, that's criminal. She looked at the floor. I needed it. No, I said, voice low, you wanted it and you didn't think I'd fight back. She laughed once, bitter. I didn't think you'd notice. Well, I did. We said nothing else. She left the fridge without looking at me again. Over the next few days, we worked in parallel. She chopped, I plated. She wiped tables, I wrote orders. Meg, bless her, didn't sense a thing. She thought we were making progress, thought we were finding our rhythm again. She didn't know Brooke flinched every time her phone buzzed, or that I caught her once crying behind the espresso machine, wiping her face with a dish towel. I didn't interrupt. Didn't gloat. Because some defeats don't need witnesses. They just need time. One evening after closing, I lingered behind. I sat at table 7, her old favorite, the one by the window she used to race for when we were kids. She used to call it the Queen's seat. Now she wiped it down each night, eyes lowered, face blank. That night I left her a note. Just one line. The Queen doesn't steal from her own kingdom. I tucked it under the salt shaker. The next morning it was gone. She never mentioned it. But she didn't sit at that table again. Then came the man in the dark coat. Late 30s, sharp jawline, clipboard tucked under his arm. He came in during the lunch rush. Didn't order. Didn't sit. Just scanned the cafe slowly until he found her. Their eyes met. She went white. He gave her a tiny nod. Then walked out. She dropped the tray in her hands. Silverware clattered to the floor. I knelt beside her to help gather the mess. Whispered, "Who was that?" She didn't answer. Just picked up the last spoon with a trembling hand and walked away. That night she didn't show up for closing. Didn't answer Meg's calls. Didn't clock in the next morning either. Meg looked worried. I didn't. Because I knew what was happening. The walls were closing in. The case was moving forward. And Brooke had nowhere left to hide. I didn't chase her. I didn't gloat. I just took my break late, sat at the Queen's table with a black coffee, and stared out at the street. Watching the world keep spinning. Watching everything I lost begin to come back to me. Quietly. Without noise. Without spectacle. Just like I wanted. Table 7. It always belonged to her. Even now, even after everything, when I see it from across the cafe, tucked near the wide front window, bathed in morning light, it still feels like Brooke. As kids, she'd race Mom through the front door, dropping her backpack mid-spin just to claim that corner seat. Every Thursday after school, cinnamon buns and raspberry sodas, she'd press her cheek to the glass and narrate the lives of strangers walking by. That guy's definitely running from a proposal. She's secretly rich but dresses poor to find a real husband. That man's an alien, no question. Her imagination was wild, loud, addictive. I used to hang on her every word. Back then, I wanted to be her. Now she worked 10 feet from me, quiet, edgeless. And she couldn't even look me in the eye when she cleaned that same table. She started each shift early. Not because she was eager, but because she was hiding. She'd get to the cafe before sunrise, open the windows, wipe down the counters, straighten the chairs. She'd sit at table 7 with her chin in her palm and stare out like she was still that girl dreaming of lives that weren't hers. But this time there were no cinnamon buns. Just credit card bills in her tote bag. And the ever-present weight of everything she'd broken. We barely spoke. There were days when our only exchange was about goat cheese inventory or why the lavender syrup was missing again. To Meg, we were just two sisters mending old wounds. But we weren't mending. We were circling. Quietly, tightly, waiting for the moment something snapped. It happened on a Thursday. I was prepping pastry boards in the back when a customer spilled coffee across table 6. Meg called out, "Brooke, could you grab towels?" Brooke rushed forward, panicked, and in doing so, knocked over an entire stack of ceramic cups. They shattered. All of them. The cafe went silent. I looked up. She stood frozen, cheeks flaming, shards at her feet, hands trembling like the floor had just dropped beneath her. Meg came running. "It's okay, accidents happen." But Brooke wasn't listening. She turned and walked straight out the back door. Didn't even take off her apron. I found her 10 minutes later sitting on the loading dock. Smoking. She hadn't smoked since college. She didn't even look at me as I sat beside her. "You okay?" I asked. She laughed once, dry and bitter. "You know what I miss," she said, "that dumb cinnamon bun we used to split." I said nothing. I used to think that table meant something, like if I sat there long enough the world would just give me things. "You never had to take from me," I said softly. She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I didn't take it because I hated you. I took it because I thought you wouldn't feel it." I looked at her hard. "And you were right, I didn't feel it at first. I believed you, I trusted you. You didn't just steal money, Brooke, you stole my peace." She winced. And for a second the mask cracked. The Brooke who used to braid my hair and write fake movie reviews with me was still in there somewhere, buried under shame and cheap ambition. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said. "Good," I said, "because I don't." We sat there for a long time. The sun climbed, the bakery smells drifted through the alley. Eventually she stood up, brushed off her pants and said, "I'll finish the shift." After she walked inside, I stayed behind. The loading dock was warm, quiet, almost soft. I stared up at the sky and whispered to no one, "She's still in there." But I didn't know if that was a comfort or a curse. Later that day, Meg handed me the cafe keys. "You've been keeping this place standing," she said. "I want you managing weekends." I nodded. Brooke overheard. She didn't say a word. But that night she didn't sit at table 7. She sat at the counter. Alone. Eating a cinnamon bun she didn't finish. And for the first time, I wondered if her punishment wasn't working here. It was watching me rebuild everything she tried to take. Without her, Friday mornings were always slow. Just a trickle of regulars, some old men with crossword puzzles, a mother with twin toddlers, and a florist named Emma who liked her matcha like envy, not grass. That morning the air felt heavy, like something unspoken sat in the walls. I noticed it the moment I walked in. Meg wasn't singing to the radio, Brooke's apron wasn't hanging in her usual spot, the espresso machine was still off. I checked the clock. 8:13 a.m. She was never late. Not anymore. I didn't panic. Not right away. People have lives, alarms fail, traffic jams happen. But when 9:00 passed and the bell never rang and table 7 sat untouched, I walked to the back and checked the lockers. Hers was empty. No shoes. No scarf. No note. Except, on the prep counter, tucked under a roll of parchment paper, was a plain white envelope. It had my name on it. Not Lena, not Sis. Lena Whitmore. The full weight of it settled in my chest before I even opened it. "I'm sorry. Not just for the money, not just for lying. I'm sorry I let everything inside me rot so long it poisoned everything I touched. You were the soft place I always hated needing, the person who kept being good even when the world didn't give you a reason to. I wanted what you had, not the money, the peace. But I didn't know how to ask for it. The truth is, I failed. And you didn't. So I'm leaving this job, not because I'm running, but because I finally understand that healing doesn't mean being near what you broke. It means stepping back and letting it grow without you. Don't worry, I know what happens next with the case. I won't fight it. You deserve every bit of justice, and more. Love you, always did, even when I forgot how to show it. Bye." I sat on the cold floor with that letter in my lap. And I let the tears come. Not out of pity, not out of anger. But because she knew. She finally knew. What she did. What she caused. And that maybe, just maybe, she was trying to make peace with it. I didn't tell Meg everything. Just said she quit. Meg shrugged, figured. She handed me the new supply order and moved on. But I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the spot where Brooke used to peel apples, her fingers always too quick, always too careless. And I whispered, "Goodbye." Weeks passed. Then months. The legal case moved forward without drama. Her signature was confirmed. She didn't contest a thing. The court ordered restitution, partial, given her assets, but she complied. Quietly, without resistance. I got a check in the mail on the first Tuesday of April. It was smaller than what she took, but heavier than it looked, because it came with a second note. For Table 7, I hope the next girl who sits there dreams bigger than we ever did. I folded it, pressed it into my journal, and that night I lit a candle beside that table. No customers, no noise, just me, and the sound of a chair being pulled out. By no one. You might think the ending is justice, but it's not. The real ending is this. I stood up. I stayed standing. And I kept building something she couldn't touch. It had been 8 months. 8 months since Brooke walked out of the cafe for the last time. 8 months since I'd read that letter. 8 months since I let myself believe she might actually disappear for good. But grief doesn't have good timing. Neither does guilt. And on the first Saturday in November, just as the leaves started to surrender their last color and the air smelled faintly of clove and bread, she walked back in. I was behind the counter pouring oat milk into a latte when the bell above the door rang. I glanced up, expecting another regular. Instead, it was her. No announcement. No ceremony. No thunder or lightning. Just Brooke, a little thinner, hair darker, eyes less sharp, more honest. She didn't approach the counter. Didn't smile. Didn't sit. She stood near the coat rack, clutching her hands like she didn't trust them. Our eyes locked. And for a second, the room dropped away. All the late-night crying. All the stolen dollars. All the broken years. Gone. Just her and me. 2 girls from the same house who forgot how to hold each other. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked around the counter. Not fast. Not slow. Measured. As if my feet had already decided long ago what they would do when this moment came. I stopped 3 feet from her. She opened her mouth. I shook my head. "Don't start with sorry," I said. She paused, then lowered her eyes. "I'm not here for forgiveness," she whispered. "Then why?" Her hand moved into her coat pocket. She pulled out a tiny cardboard box, no bigger than a ring box. She opened it slowly. Inside was a key. Silver, familiar. My breath caught. "That's," I began. She nodded. "Mom's storage unit, the one they had near the coast. I found the paperwork last month. I went out there." "Why?" She looked up at me. "I wanted to remember them before they became just grief." Her voice cracked. "And because I knew I took something from you I couldn't return, but maybe I could give something else back." I stared at the key. Then at her. She held it out. Hand trembling. "I didn't open it," she said. "I figured you should." I didn't take it. Not yet. Because something inside me had to decide first. Was I going to hold on to the ending? Or open a door to something else? We sat at table 7. Of course we did. It felt quieter this time. Less haunted. I finally took the key. Held it in my palm for a long time. "You said you didn't come for forgiveness," I said. She nodded. "I didn't. But you're still hopping for it." She gave a sad smile. "No, I'm hopping for peace, yours and maybe someday mine." I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't the same. There was still a little ambition in her eyes, but it was softer now, like a fire that had learned not to scorch everything it touched. I slid the key into my coat pocket. Then stood. "You want coffee?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "Coffee, you like the lavender oat, right?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." I walked behind the counter and began to make it. She sat still, breathing, waiting, and when I handed it to her, she whispered, "Thank you." I didn't say, "You're welcome," because I wasn't there yet. But I also didn't walk away, because some stories don't end with punishment. They end with choice. And in that moment, I chose not to carry her weight anymore. Later that night, I drove to the coast. To the old storage unit. The one with the rusted handle and the peeling green paint. I opened it alone. Inside were 3 things. A box of Dad's fishing lures. Mom's recipe book stained with sugar and cinnamon. And an old Polaroid taped to the inside wall. It was of us. Brooke and me. On our bikes. Mud all over our legs. Laughing so hard we were blurry. On the back in Mom's handwriting. "No matter what, come home to each other." I sat on the concrete floor and cried. And for the first time in years. It wasn't about what I lost. It was about what I might still find. It had been 2 weeks since Brooke handed me the key. 2 weeks since I opened that storage unit on the coast and saw pieces of our family laid out like a memory too fragile to touch. I hadn't told her what was inside. Not because I didn't want to, but because something in me needed time to understand what it meant. What any of it meant. The recipe book. The lures. The Polaroid. Especially the Polaroid. The picture never left my pocket. Even now, as I stirred honey into the morning's first chai order, it sat folded in my apron, humming against my hip like a whisper I hadn't answered yet. Then, right as I was dusting powdered sugar over a lemon loaf, I heard the bell. I didn't have to look. I knew it was her. "Hey," she said gently. "Hey." Brooke stood there, gloved hands around a bouquet of sunflowers. She shifted her weight. "These are for the counter. Meg said you rotate flowers every week." I nodded. She placed them down. Our fingers brushed. She didn't pull away. After the rush, she waited for me. Sat at the corner of the cafe with her coat draped across her lap, sipping a tea she'd bought this time. When I finally joined her, I pulled the Polaroid out and placed it face down between us. She didn't touch it. "I know what it is," she said. "How?" "I recognized the look on your face. You used to make that face when you broke something you thought Mom would love." I smiled barely. "I didn't break anything this time." She looked up. "No, you didn't." We sat like that a long time. Then I said, "I think we should go back." Her brow furrowed. "Back to the unit together." She hesitated. "Why?" "Because some ghosts need both of us." The drive was quiet. She rode shotgun, fingers picking at her sleeve, humming an old Counting Crows song under her breath, one our mom used to play while baking. The closer we got to the coast, the stronger the scent of salt and pine grew. By the time we pulled into the gravel lot, neither of us had spoken in 20 minutes. I killed the engine. We sat there in the car, engines of our hearts idling, waiting for some external force to say now. But none came. So I stepped out. She followed. The lock clicked open. The door groaned. Inside, it smelled like dust and nostalgia. Brooke took a sharp breath when she saw the photo on the wall. She walked to it, fingertips grazing the edge like it might dissolve. "I remember this," she whispered. "It was the first time I beat you in a race." "No, it wasn't," I said. "I let you win." She turned to me. Eyes wide. "You liar. You were crying that morning because Mom made you wear tights. I figured a fake win might cheer you up." We both laughed. Zovd. Raw. Real. We sat on overturned milk crates. I handed her the recipe book. She opened it, flipping through the pages like scripture. She wrote little notes. Brooke said, "Look, add extra cinnamon when Lena's home, it makes her smile." I looked over her shoulder. My throat ached. There were dozens of those notes. Some for me. Some for Brooke. Even one that said, "If they fight, remind them the kitchen is where forgiveness starts." Brooke closed the book. And then, with tears quietly sliding down her cheeks, she whispered, "I'm never going to be the sister you deserved." I touched her hand. "You don't have to be." She looked up. "You just have to be the one who tries." We left the unit an hour later. Said nothing on the drive back. But as I dropped her off at her apartment, a tiny third-floor walk-up she'd been renting since the court ruling, she leaned in the open door and asked, "Next week, same day, same drive?" I nodded. She smiled. And this time I did too. Because maybe redemption doesn't arrive in a blaze. Maybe it walks slowly, holding sunflowers, and wearing the same eyes you've known since birth. It came on a Sunday. One of those in-between Sundays, not quite cold, not quite warm, the kind where the wind forgets which season it belongs to, and everything feels like it might change without warning. I'd just come back from the farmer's market, arms full of sage and pears and a still warm baguette. The cafe was closed. My keys jangled lazily in my coat pocket as I approached the front gate. That's when I saw it. A white envelope. No stamp, no address, just my name, Lena, in soft cursive ink I hadn't seen in months. Brooke's handwriting. I didn't open it right away. I sat on the front steps of the cafe and stared at it. Let the weight of it rest in my lap like a fragile thing that might burn or bloom, depending on how I held it. Inside, something fluttered. Not panic. Not hope. Just something. A small ache that pulsed behind my ribs like the faint echo of a song I used to know. I opened it slowly. No perfume, no lipstick kiss. Just 5 lines scrawled in shaky script. "You were always better than me, not prettier, not smarter, just better at knowing where the line was." I kept stepping over it. "You kept building something instead. I hope it keeps growing." Bye. That was all. No apology. No signature flourish. No drama. Just that. I folded the letter twice. Pressed it into my journal. And for a long time I didn't move. I watched a girl in a red raincoat walk her beagle past the cafe. Watched an old couple shuffle across the street, their hands tied together with decades. Watched the wind shake yellow leaves loose from the maple near the corner lamp post. And I thought, maybe this was it. Not an ending, but a new kind of quiet. The kind where absence doesn't sting anymore. It just rests. 3 days later, a postcard arrived. It was from New Mexico. A women's recovery center near Santa Fe. The handwriting was Brooke. But the message was clear. She's safe, she's here, she's trying. No name. No request for a response. Just that. That night I baked 1 cinnamon bun. Just one. Sat by the window of the empty cafe with it, steam curling off the icing, coffee in hand, and watched the moon rise behind the streetlight. I didn't cry. Didn't sigh. Didn't whisper her name into the dark. I just was. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. Some people don't return the way you want them to. They return in letters. In postcards. In recipes written in the margins of old cookbooks. They return in the way you exhale without realizing you were holding your breath. They return in your own ability to open again. Without bleeding. The first time I opened the cafe after all of it, after Brooke, the trial, the letter, the silence, something was different. It wasn't the walls or the furniture, it wasn't even the new espresso machine we finally saved up for. It was the way I moved. Unrushed. Certain. Like my body no longer braced for disappointment every time the bell above the door rang. Like my breath had finally come home. The cafe was full that morning. Emma brought her newborn tucked in a knit sling. Meg danced behind the counter, humming something French. Mr. Robbins, our oldest customer, forgot his wallet again, and I pretended not to notice, just like I always did. There was warmth in the room. The kind that doesn't come from heat, but from returning to self, to center, to the thing no one can take from you. After the rush, I walked over to table 7. Ran my fingers along the wood, smoothed from years of elbows, coffee rings, and conversations that changed people. Brooke's letter still lived in the drawer underneath. Not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder. That healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without collapsing. Later that afternoon, I ran a baking workshop, a small one. Just 6 women. Different ages. Different heartbreaks. One had just left her husband after 15 years. Another had just gotten out of rehab. One barely spoke above a whisper. But when we started folding butter into flour, something softened in all of them. They laughed. They asked questions. They leaned into the dough like it could hold them. And when the first tray of scones came out of the oven, the whole room smelled like warmth and forgiveness. One of them, a girl named Jess, lingered after class. She stood near the back door, clutching her apron like it was a lifeline. Then quietly she asked, "How did you start this?" I smiled. "The cafe." She nodded. I thought for a moment. Then said, "By surviving something that should have broken me." Her eyes filled. "I think I'm still breaking." I reached out and gently touched her arm. "Then you're in the right place." That night I stayed late to mop the floors. The playlist looped back to my mom's favorite song, something with a gentle piano and lyrics about coming home. And as I passed the mop over the worn tile, I thought, she would have liked this. Not the business, but the energy. The way women gathered here not to fix each other, but to remember themselves. The phone rang just as I was locking up. I answered on instinct. "Lena," I said. Silence. Then, "Hi." I knew the voice, even in one word. "Hey, Brooke," I said, leaning against the counter. She hesitated. "I'm not calling to ask anything." "Okay. I just wanted you to know I got a job." My heart swelled in my throat. "Where?" "A recovery center in Santa Fe, front desk for now, but they're training me." I smiled. "That's great." I thought about writing, but letters are heavy, I said gently. "Yeah." We sat in the silence for a beat. Then she said, "I think about the cafe all the time." "It's still here," I said. "I know, but I don't need to come back." Another pause. "I just needed to know you were still standing." I let that settle between us. Then answered, "I am." She didn't say goodbye. She just whispered, "Take care, Lena," and hung up. And I stood in the middle of the cafe, feeling something new. Not pain, not anger, not even forgiveness. Just peace. I walked back to table 7, lit a candle, sat down with a cup of tea and a lemon tart I hadn't finished earlier, watched the flame flicker in the quiet, and thought, this is my kitchen now. My rules, my rhythm, and no one works here unless I say so. Not out of revenge, not out of pride, but because I finally know what it means to build something that belongs only to me.